Okay, of the 30,000 criminals you let free, how many of them have come back? Have committed a crime again, hurt somebody else?
So that number is one that we're still looking at as it relates to the recidivism rate for those that were released on the First Step Act.
You don't have any idea?
No, Senator.
You don't have anybody at the Bureau that can count?
I do not have that number in front of me today,
So let me get
Senator.
this straight. The First Step Act was passed in 2018. This is 2024. Am I right so far?
That's correct.
That's 6 years. And in 6 years,
What happens when the government releases 30,000 criminals, but can't tell you how many reoffended? A heated Senate hearing just exposed a shocking gap in accountability, and the answers left lawmakers stunned. Is the justice system working, or are we flying blind? Stay with me, because what was revealed will seriously
you
make
came from, you used to run the correction system in Oregon, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Oregon legalized drugs, is that right?
That's correct.
Oregon's about to reverse that, is that correct?
Senator, I'm not familiar with the policy proposed to reverse that.
Oh, you just ignored Oregon?
Oregon still has a very special place in my heart, sir.
Okay. You haven't read any of the articles about the reversal?
I haven't, Senator.
You don't know anything about it?
Correct, sir.
Okay, wow. You're in charge of implementing the First Step Act, Director?
That's correct.
How many criminals have you released under the First Step Act?
So First Step Act for the overall release since the initiation of the First Step Act is, I have that exact number in front of me.
You don't know off
Thought
the
I
top of
did.
your head?
Sorry, Senator. So 70% of those that were released, we have about 30,000 individuals that have been released since the passage of the First Step Act.
All right, so you've released 30,000 criminals under the First Step Act. Okay? And how many of them, before you released them, did you contact any of their victims to say we're about to let this guy out?
Senator, it's my understanding that that notification happens through the U.S. Attorney's Office, but I will check into that and get back to you.
You don't know?
Senator, I don't.
Have you followed up with the U.S. attorneys to say, do you have a system to say, hey, we're about to let this guy out? Would we want to be sure the victim's contacted?
As a former victim's advocate, I share that value, that victim notification should happen. I'll check on the process. And I'll
But
get
you
back
don't
to
know if it's happening.
That's correct, Senator.
Wow. And in 6 years, you've let 30,000 criminals go, right?
That's correct.
And you don't have the slightest idea how many of them committed another crime and came back.
I don't have that number in front of me today,
And you
sir.
run the Bureau of Prisons.
That's correct.
And how many employees do you have?
About 40,000 employees.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. General, I know you got a lot to do, but could you give us a hand here? And let's find out whether the First Step Act worked. And how many, if we've released 30,000 criminals after 6 years, our director here doesn't know how many have committed another crime and come back? Can you help us?
Senator, I can certainly follow up on that issue. I will just say in terms of work we've done in the past, for example, on compassionate release, and going to the Bureau of Prisons, this is before Director Peters was there, and asking them for data on compassionate release, because that was one of the issues that has come up.
Excuse me for interrupting, but I'm not talking about compassionate release.
No, I understand.
You know,
I'm
my
just saying-
colleagues said we were told that it would save money and it would be in the interest of public safety to release criminals from prison. I didn't vote for it, but the majority rules. And so Congress did it. And Ms. Peters, Director Peters at the Bureau of Prisons, and her colleagues released 30,000 criminals, all of whom are there for a reason, okay? They didn't just go to prison for a free toaster. They were there for a reason. And so her department let them go, and after 6 years, we don't have the slightest idea. Not a single one of the 40,000 of her employees know how many have committed a second crime and come back. So how the hell are we supposed to figure out whether it worked?
Senator,
Your people ought to hide their head in a bag, Director. that you can't come here in front of this Congress and answer that question? I'm sorry, I interrupted you with my speech.
No, that's okay. I was just going to, my bottom line point on it was, I've often looked to those questions on things like compassionate release and other programs. And one of the challenges we found is the department just doesn't have good data on that. Halfway houses. Congress is spending about $500 million a year on halfway houses. There's really not great recidivism data on that either. How well are they working?
Before we do this, we need to find out. Look, I believe in justice. I believe in treating everybody fairly. But there are people out there, I don't know why, if I make it to heaven, I'm going to ask. They're not mixed up. They're not confused. They're not sick. It's not that their mama or daddy didn't love them or not enough. They just hurt other people, and they take other people's stuff, and we have to separate them from society. And the director let 30,000 of these folks go and can't tell me today how many have come back. I just find it takes my breath away. With 40,000 people. How many of your 40,000 people are actually coming to work or are still working from home, Director?
The supermajority of our employees come to work every day because we're running 24/7
What percentage are coming to work every day?
The percentage is quite high. I don't have the exact
You
number.
don't know?
But
Well, maybe there's your problem.
the supermajority of our individuals come to
If
work
they're not coming
at
to
our
work, they
institutions.
can't give us the answer. I've gone over. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. This is why people hate government and don't trust government.
So I'd like to respond concerning the Grassley-Durbin First Step Act signed into law by President
I
Donald
thought
Trump.
you might have a response.
By President Donald Trump. I almost want to repeat that because this notion that it's soft on crime, I don't consider Chuck Grassley soft on crime. I don't consider Donald Trump soft on crime. Let me tell you the numbers.
In a tense Senate hearing, a major clash unfolded over one simple but critical question. Is the First Step Act actually working? Senator Kennedy pressed the director of the Bureau of Prisons with a straightforward request. How many of the 30,000 inmates released under the law have committed new crimes? And the response? She didn't know. Not an estimate, not a rough percentage, nothing. Now think about that for a second. This is a federal agency with roughly 40,000 employees, responsible for managing prisons across the country. Yet they couldn't provide one of the most basic performance metrics, recidivism. That's the rate at which released offenders commit new crimes. Kennedy didn't hold back. He pointed out that these weren't minor cases. These were individuals sent to prison for a reason. And now, after 6 years, there's no clear data showing whether releasing them made society safer or more dangerous. But then came a sharp counterpoint. Another senator stepped in with numbers, stating that the recidivism rate under the First Step Act is around 12.4%, meaning roughly 7 out of 8 released individuals have not been rearrested. That sounds like a success, right? Especially compared to older estimates suggesting around 43% of formerly incarcerated individuals were rearrested within 3 years before the reform. So what's the truth? Is this a policy success story or a data failure? Here's where things get complicated. The disagreement wasn't just about crime. It was about credibility. Kennedy's argument was simple. If the system works, prove it with solid, verifiable data. Because without reliable numbers, how can lawmakers or the public trust the outcome? On the other side, supporters argue the First Step Act was designed to reduce repeat offenses by offering education, training, and rehabilitation, giving people a real chance to reintegrate into society. And if those lower recidivism numbers are accurate, then it may actually be doing exactly what it promised. But here's the bigger issue. When government agencies can't clearly track results, it fuels public distrust, no matter which side you're on. Because accountability isn't optional. It's essential. So now the question shifts to you. Do you believe the system is improving public safety? Or is the lack of transparency a problem in itself? Let me know what you think.